Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at some of our passenger trains and make sure those are upgraded and moving enough people around. And then I think we'll be taking a look at some oil fields to get some more fuel shipped to the cargo hub. So right now, I believe this is our only source of fuel on the map. And so I'd like to connect up a second one that connects to the cargo hub. Fuel isn't too highly needed across the map, but as I've been saying before, I think just to be comfortable, having two inputs of resources to the cargo hub for everything will put us in a pretty comfortable position to supply the whole map with whatever we need. However, before we get started with that, I wanted to come and check out our train station here and see what our numbers are looking like, as some of our lines seem to be pretty full, and yet again we are starting to max out our buildings and platforms. So one thing that I think I would like to do is expand our buildings to the other side of our station. So we're going to flatten out a good portion on this side. And after flattening this out, if we take a look here, it seems our high-speed rail line sort of gets in the way a little bit here when it comes to connecting this. So let's pause and maybe we'll just have to reroute this really quick and just get it a little bit farther away from the station so we don't get that really rough terrain issue. Alright, so as you can see, we're able to reroute this over just a little bit more to give us a little more space here in front of our train station. We just have to add our signals back in underground, and we can get back to smoothing all of this out. Alright, so now that we have a nice open area on this side, we can come in, and we're not going to go too crazy on this side. I think we might just keep it to medium buildings, so we'll grab this, get a few medium side buildings, and then maybe just one or two small side buildings on the ends. So then that sets us up pretty nicely to just add a road right across here. And we'll have to delete that one road, but this now allows us to connect up exactly where we want to and get a nice clean connection like so. And so we'll leave this road pretty open-ended over here, so maybe the city can put some buildings, some houses up here. It might help fill in this little patch here that's not connected to anything just yet. But now that we've done that, I think we should move on to our trains. So just taking a look at the demand between some of our lines. Right now, from Jackson and Scottsdale, it seems like our line out to Modesto is the most in demand. So let's maybe mess around with these vehicles and see if we've unlocked anything newer or nicer that we can use, and maybe would cost less since these engines do cost quite a bit to run. So I think a train running on a line like this might actually work out pretty well. So we have the Speed Dance Express here, and this has a top speed of 150 miles an hour, but it can get up there at a pretty decent speed. I believe we have enough space between our lines to get there. So we'll just follow this one and make sure it can get to its top speed and that we're getting the most use out of this train. And then once it's done that, we'll probably add one or two more, since this does have less capacity than our previous trains. But hopefully once we have that going, that'll be this line sorted out pretty well. Alright, so our trains do work out pretty well. As you can see, this one starting to flow in here into this intersection. It does have to slow down at this corner here, which really kills a lot of potential profit on this whole line, since that's sort of right in the middle of the track. So we can't really keep that speed as our trains continue to run on this line. So we're gonna have to redo this turn, which will probably require us to pull these tracks back pretty far. And we don't need it to be at the maximum speed, but we do need it to be fast enough so that it still keeps our train's maximum speed of 150 or whatever it was. Alright, so after playing around for a bit, I think a curve like this will be just fine. It does dip down to 137, but that's not too much slower than the train's current top speed. I mean, I suppose we could try merging off even farther up, but I'm still not sure what kind of impact that would make, if it even makes any. So that brings up to 148. I guess we'll stick with that. So we'll bring our tracks around like so, and hopefully we should be able to get this to snap in wherever the other intersection is. Alright, so after a bunch of messing around and collision issues and whatnot, we finally got this curve in, and it looks pretty good. Again, we had to build with collision for this set of tracks here since the game doesn't like shallow train intersections, but now all we have to do is bring this road back around so that it connects up, and we'll have to get this so it snaps here, and that should work out just fine. So now we should just have to clean up the landscaping, add the extra trains onto the line, and we can move on to getting our fuel line together. So here we can see our train starting to fly down one of my favorite sections of track we have on this map. I just think it's really cool seeing all the trains in the distance and just the 6 wide set of tracks, especially once these trains are going like full speed and just completely flying through here. It's pretty cool to see. But let's check in on the Modesto end and just make sure that the demand is sort of reciprocated, which it seems like it is since we just had a train leave pretty full. So we've just duplicated and added 2 more trains to this line. We should see those come out pretty soon. I'm not sure where those will come from. Either Santa Clarita, which it looks like it is. So these trains are going to come out of Santa Clarita, stop at Jackson, and then make their way out to Modesto. And that is perfectly fine. And we'll just have to check in later to see if these numbers get any better. But as for the most part, I think that's really the only one at the moment that really needed fixed. Our Montgomery line is slowly going down since we added those new trains a couple of episodes back. So again, just something we'll have to keep an eye on. But now we can move on to transporting oil. Alright, so I think this is going to be the area where we take a look at potentially doing some fuel. So we have an oil well here. We have 2 oil refineries right around here. I think we might end up getting rid of this one since it's just so close to this yard. And I just want to leave this space open in case we ever want to expand it in the future. So this one will probably be the one that we go with. The space here is pretty unique, so I think we will leave it like this, although that does pose a few challenges, but I don't want to just replace the industry just because we can. I think we'll leave this orientation as it will probably provide a good amount of challenge for us. So we'll start with this oil well here, and I want to, first of all, flatten out a good portion of the area here. And so I think what I want to do here is build pretty much a massive oil well in this area, as in order to get this oil refinery running at its maximum efficiency, we'll need 4 oil wells. Or actually, this one can produce 400 at level 1, and I assume 800 at level 2. So I think we will only need 2 of those since this oil refinery is just a 2-to-1 ratio. So what we're going to do is come in and we'll grab an oil well industry. And we'll try to fit this maybe in a way that will look good. If we just align it up like this, that might actually not look too terrible, as they'll probably pretty much just be aligned with each other, and then we can blend this whole area in. Alright, so now we have a nice flat area here. We can, I think first we'll get our roads down, and then we'll do the detailing. Alright, so I think this will be our road network, and then right here seems to be a pretty good spot to get a truck depot in, or truck station, I should say. So we'll get this decently long, since we'll have quite a few trucks coming in here. I suppose we'll only need one of the platforms. We'll just make sure everything else is what we want it to be. So I think we'll go with dirt roads throughout most of this area, as that will fit the look probably the best. We'll leave this as a asphalt road, as that's probably where the transition will end up happening. But from here on, we can just fill this area with details, make it all look good, and then we can focus on transporting it down to the oil refinery. So now we have this area sectioned off. We'll fill this with some oil pumps, and that should fill this out quite nicely. Alright, so this is sort of this corner of the oil well, pretty detailed up nicely, and I'm pretty happy to leave this off over on this end. So then we'll wrap around another road. This will hug pretty tightly to the industry. We'll want to get some nice sharp corners as we go about doing this. So we'll just drag these roads through. For some reason we're getting collisions now, but we'll just ignore those. And then we'll have this come across there. And then somewhere here we're actually going to have it cut back and probably just connect like so. Actually, what I think we're going to do is we're just going to simply add this fence here so that this is all fenced in, and then we'll paint this in with some dirt. So that leaves sort of this end open-ended if we feel it needs to expand or get bigger to sort of look like it's supplying the demand that it's been given. But I think we'll just finish off this area, add a bunch of storage back here along the fence, and that's probably where we'll be done with the detailing of this oil industry. Alright, and so after some finishing details, this is how we're going to leave our oil field off. I think this came out pretty well, and I'm excited to come back to it and expand on it in the future when we need to. So just closing this whole area out, let's smooth out the terrain. And so now pretty much we have to figure out how we're getting from here all the way over and down into this oil refinery. So I think first let's work our way up this hill first, and the landscape sort of helps us out with that. So we can start to come up here, and then as we get really close to around this point, we could actually probably turn around, or maybe we should give ourselves just a bit more space. We're not going to go up at the highest slope, just so our trucks have a reasonable chance of getting up here. But now that we're here, we can switch this back, and we should be able to make our way over towards the oil well. So here's our road coming from the oil well, comes over just past this farm, and then makes its way down the hill here into the oil refinery. We'll have to come through and smooth out some of these rough areas, like here. And so I think this looks pretty well, leaving it off like this. I think next we will flatten out this area around our oil industry. And now that we've done that, let's build our truck stop. So we're going to want 2, one for drop off and one for pickup. And so I think adding a stop right about here will work out pretty well. I think we actually want to delete that and change the ground material back to asphalt. And now we should be able to get this back in here like so. And I think that's going to be it for the truck station. And then as for getting resources out of here, I actually was going to go with the truck station, but since we don't necessarily need to do that, we'll get rid of it, put that one back in right there, and I think what we're going to do is ship this by boat. So let's get one of these large blank cargo harbors in here. We'll line it up so it's, I guess, at a 45-ish degree with the existing industry. Plop that down there. So this will be this setup. So the reason we're going with a port here is so we can send it by boat all the way down to the fuel refinery here. And then because oil to fuel is a 1-to-1 ratio, we can have our boats bring it to the fuel refinery, then load up on fuel, take that fuel all the way over to the cargo hub, and then on their return trip, they can just come back down, collect more oil, and take it to the fuel refinery. So this will sort of be like a triangle route where I guess about a third of the trip the boats will be moving empty, which is better than the alternative, which is them traveling half empty over the course of their trip. And so we're going to leave this blank port area because we're going to put a bunch of resources and maybe a few buildings on here to make this look a little more believable as a port and storage area. Alright, so we're going to put this warehouse down right here on top of our platform areas, and this almost lines up really well. I think we'll just have to move it forward a tiny bit. So we'll line this up here so it's just like so. So now it's something like this, and this covers pretty much both of those main blank areas. And then over here, I think we'll get some oil containers. Alright, so we'll have our stacks of oil here, and we'll have to fence it all in. So we'll just grab this fence, and we can just start dragging this around, just like so. And next we will paint in some asphalt to fill in this area. So we'll hold shift and paint all of this. We'll get right up to the edge of the existing industry and then just fill in pretty much this whole square here. We'll delete some of these trees and bushes that are in our way. And so that's this port area done up nicely. I think we'll leave just this oil refinery industry like so. I think maybe we'll come back and add to this maybe next episode, because I do want to get this line up and running in this video. But then over here at the fuel refinery, it's pretty much the same thing. We'll grab another large port and we'll place that right along the road here. And we'll do the same thing. We'll get these blank platforms in like so, and then we'll get these well, I guess we don't want these to be blank docks, so we'll just get two in like this, put a landing on, I guess both of them, it doesn't really matter, and we'll leave this off looking like this, and we'll come back, and again, I think next episode we'll kick off by detailing this area, just so it looks good, but we want to get this line running in this video. So in order to connect everything up, I think we're going to get a road running alongside this industry as close as we can, connect it up to our roads here and here. So now this road has a connection to pretty much the rest of our road network. And I guess we'll come up to this road depot at our Albuquerque distribution area, but now we want to get some of these trucks that can transport oil. We'll start out with, let's start out with 10 of those. Set those up on a new line from this stop to the oil refinery. And so out comes our fleet of trucks, which we'll check the rate on. So that appears to be pretty close to what we want. We are running 2 of these, so when they're fully maxed out, we'll actually want it at 1600 for the rate on that line. But we'll wait for those trucks to come over here and get established before we start messing around with it too much. However, next we can come to our shipyard, and we'll find a ship that works pretty well with fuel and oil. So it looks like it's going to have to be this boat here. And because this is such a long and slow oil line, we might go with a fair amount of boats here. And we'll try out 10, knowing pretty well we'll have to adjust those. But we'll have them start out here in the Albuquerque port, come over to San Jose fuel refinery, and then end up all the way up here at the cargo hub. So now that we've done that, let's set everything up. So in Albuquerque, it should be loading oil, and it shouldn't be unloading anything. In San Jose, it will be loading fuel and unloading the oil, the refined oil. And then all the way at the cargo hub, it will unload fuel. So now if we have this all connected up properly, we should see oil starting to pile up here, which is exactly what we see. We can see the numbers starting to rise, and so now pretty much it's just a waiting game to get everything slowly flowing, and the boats are going to take absolutely forever to make their way around. So here we can just take a look and see all the boats that are coming in and out of this area. I'm not too sure how I feel about this many boats. I think it's interesting and provides a pretty unique situation, but I'm not entirely sure if this is realistic, having so many boats, especially over here, just all of these boats just going up and down the same river. Maybe if we added some buoys, we could space these out a bit more, and maybe they wouldn't be so on top of each other. But let me know what you guys think about all these boats, if we should try to trim down on them and use other forms of transportation, or if these will be just fine and if they add life to the map. So we can start to see our line of boats slowly making their way around. If we check the rate on that, it's actually very low, down to 250, so we might have to double or even triple the amount of boats that we have running on this line, which means we'll probably want to introduce boats somewhere down on this end so that they're at least spaced out a little bit and they won't all be clumped together once everything gets functioning. So we'll do that. We'll grab, I believe we did 12 boats. We'll grab 12 more, put those on the fuel to the cargo hub line. We can double check that rate yet again. So that's at 555. We want that to be up at 800. So we'll clone a few more, wait for the numbers to update. Get a few more there. I think one more batch and we should be good. So 782 I'm okay with. Let's maybe just get one more. And that should help us out, 807. I might look around for some vehicle assets and see if we can get a bigger fuel boat, just so we don't have to be running 30 boats or whatever it was at just for this line to work. Because that does seem maybe slightly unrealistic. So we'll figure that out, but this line should now be fully functioning. Our trucks are making its way over here. So now we can probably take a look at these and simply duplicate these trucks. And doing so brings our rate up to just under 1,500. So 2 more should get us exactly where we want. So while we wait just a bit longer for our boats to spread out and our trucks to start working, we will add just a little bit to this oil refinery and pretty much just use that to cap off this episode. Alright, so this is the little addition that we'll leave off here at the oil refinery. We have our second batch of trucks starting to make their way in here, and this should be our first full load of oil coming into the refinery and making its way on the long journey to the cargo hub. Alright, so that's going to be all we'll do in this video. We'll finish up detailing the rest of this line at the start of next episode, but if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.